Hey guys, I am back with Ahmed by popular demand. If you guys missed part one, everybody was loving it. It was one of the best interviews we've done on the channel to date, if not the best. So I had to bring him back for part two. Ahmed, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ryan. I really thoroughly enjoyed our questions and everything we went through on the first episode. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah. So today, you're like an open book, which is crazy because in the space it's not always common for that.
Yeah.
So in part one, we talked about your story, kind of how you got started, what led you to this crazy level of success, and like you're still gonna keep going, obviously. Hit me up when you cross the $100 million threshold. But today we're going to talk more about like your actual brands, some of these brands that your company owns that are that you're fulfilling the products for and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see like what you're willing to share here on this video.
Absolutely. Yeah, I want to get into everything. I think it's there's going to be a lot of key takeaways. I want to show the types of products that we're able to manufacture, and how we even pivot these brands to become successful. Because I promise you, when they initially launched, none of them were, right, aside from Canvas Freaks. And so it takes a level of iteration and effort and grit to kind of get to a successful point. And I'd love to kind of share that across the brands.
No, that's awesome. So you're going to show us some of your brands, and then we had talked about maybe kind of zooming out and talking about how you've structured your whole like corporation, just to give us maximum context, I guess, and insight.
Totally. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And to be honest, I mean, even in real life, like that's how it happened, right? It started with the brands, and then we decided to take a higher level of thinking when it came to the company structure. And so we changed things up, and we made it vertically integrated. So I'd love to talk on that. I'd love to talk about like end goals that people would have as they grow their individual POD companies, and how it can lead to an eventual exit even. And so I'd love to kind of touch on that too, and because that's kind of what we're doing, and I would definitely recommend that for your viewers.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome too. Just like being very forward looking, that makes it a lot less random when you stumble upon these insane levels of success that people really only dream about. So that's awesome. All right, so did you want to screen share?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I'll go ahead and start with Canvas Freaks. Okay, so we currently have 6 active brands in our portfolio. These are all from scratch. Like we've literally built these up. These were ideas that we had, and we would create like mock websites, mock sample products, and we just like say, hey, let's launch. So Canvas Freaks, obviously, going with the first episode, we launched this in late 2016. This brand has developed quite a lot since it launched back then. We have a lot of different product categories, from like space to gaming, and you can see we have a hybrid product. We have like neon signs, we have canvas prints, acrylic.
Dude,
so many different things that we offer. No, I appreciate it.
I'm gonna hit you up for those neon signs, man. Whenever we move, dude, and I build the man cave out, I'm gonna have an arcade, so I need those.
No, we can fully customize, and that's what I love, right? Like love about what we do. So like on Canvas Freaks, you'll see that there's like a custom text editor. So like if I wanted to make a sign for Ryan, right? Like I can fully customize this, different fonts, different sizes, different colors, and we'll literally make it exactly the way you'll design it. It could be logos, things like that. There's so much you can do with it. And then, we work with artists, right? And we'll have artists design products. So like when we work with them, we're able to come up with a level of creativity that we can't even come up with ourselves. So if I browse by, artists, you'll see all these different people that we're hosting on our site. And these individuals are so talented. I would recommend it for a lot of print on demand sellers to not just make it necessary for you to come up with designs yourselves, pay someone on Upwork to do it. If you're not a designer, you can team up with incredible artists and pay them a commission. For full transparency, on Canvas Freaks, we pay anywhere from 7.5% of our sales to 15% of our sales directly to artists that we work with. And so with every sale, they're able to kind of monetize. And obviously, we need that incredible excess margin to pretty much pay for the product, pay for the advertising, and everything else that that happens. So that's what Canvas Freaks is. This company, at its peak, was pretty much doing $5 million a year in revenue. Since kind of COVID slowed down, I mean, the brand itself kind of came down a little bit too, and we're working on revamping that, scaling that up. But the most important thing is just to stay profitable and innovate on products
too, right? They gave everybody a bunch of money, you know what I mean, in their bank account, and people went and found a way to spend it.
Absolutely. That coupled with the fact that, people weren't shopping in physical stores as much. So yeah, naturally it catapulted our success, right? So yeah, that's what we've done. This brand, Animify Me, this is one of our, I guess, second brand. And the reason why I love this brand so much is because we have a network of artists that can push out up to 1,000 orders a day. And so these artists live all over the world, from like South America to East Asia, even some in the US and Europe. And so like we'll have people upload pictures of themselves and their family, and then we'll turn them into anime characters. And this is really cool because, again, there's two different products that we're selling. We're doing a digital print, which we sell by itself. And it's like priced by how many characters you get and things like that. But also we're selling an add-on canvas print or an acrylic print, depending on what they want. And so it really allows us to have this massive average order value, which for this brand is $130.
Nice.
It's a very seasonal brand, meaning that there are times of the year, like right now, where nothing's happening and we're getting 10 orders a day. But then there's like seasonal periods like Father's Day, Christmas, and I promise you, we're getting like 500 plus orders a day, every single day for like a month. And so it requires really intense like systems in the background to manage this, really amazing artists, and all of that. And so we ended up taking this
just for a second.
Sure.
Just sorry to cut you off, man. Like the upsell, the concept of upsells, like you show somebody a really good ad, they're gonna buy from you, but now it's like, oh, by the way, on the way to the checkout, like, what about this?
Totally. So to give you context, when we launched this brand, our average order value in the beginning was probably around $80. And that's because we didn't optimize it, right? It was successful at $80, but over time we would continue to add upsells. So for example, if you're getting a custom piece of art, why not get a piece of art from an artist, right? And so we'll host these as well. If you're getting a 12x9 canvas, why not get a floating frame on top for an extra $30? And so like things like that, step by step, we'll have processes in the funnel where, even when you add to cart, it's giving you upsell options. Even when you've reached checkout, it's giving you additional upsell options. Even when you've went past the checkout, it's post-purchase. It gives you a one-click option to upgrade the size of your print or something like that. So by doing all of those little mini things, we've managed to get that average order value from $80 to like literally $130, depending on the time of the year. So it's really impressive. And I think that's something that Shopify allows you to do, which is, again, like it's totally possible on Etsy and Amazon, but you have a level of control that lets you go higher with it on Shopify.
Dude, that's so good. And like, again, it's Shopify, so it can be, moved to other brands. Once you learn something from this brand, you can maybe implement something similar here. And you mentioned like a one-click upsell. I always like to just mention, because like I used to lecture about like web development and stuff like that at the university level. And even like, still on YouTube, it's almost the same. Like the less inputs you ask an end user for, the higher the likelihood of whatever action you want them to take gets taken. So in this case, hey, buy this, but also, if you want to spend extra money, one tap here, you spend extra, you get this extra, and keep it simple. You know what I mean? If you give somebody 10 options as an upsell, they might you might lose the conversion,
Absolutely. And we test everything. That's really important to mention, because, a lot of times as founders, like we have an idea and we think it's great. And so we'll just put it up and then set it and forget it, right? It's so important to keep a benchmark of that data, to say that, hey, before I make this website change or this upsell change, here's my conversion rate on the site, here is my add to cart rate, and I'm gonna write this down so that once I make the change, I'm gonna compare it, right? And so like we'll make a change, we'll wait a week, we'll look at that data for the week and compare, like, was it a positive change? Was it a negative change? And more often than not, it hurts our site, it hurts our conversions. And that's so important, and people, I feel like, don't do that enough, right? Or maybe don't know how. My solution is just to keep it simple. Literally write down the most important metric, which might be conversion rate or average order value, and just compare the before and after. It's literally that simple.
And you have a Facebook ads background, so of course you get it, right? Like people who run Facebook ads successfully, that's something they probably obsess over. So
absolutely. And again, it's totally possible to do the same thing on Etsy, right? Keyword ranking, ad spend, changing the profile picture, or sorry, the main, photo, adding a red border around it, like doing small things like that really optimize your product for sales. And people just don't do enough testing. Super, super important. Diving into PokePet Shop. So we turn people's pets into PokePet cards. As you can see, we do a custom metal print as well as a larger canvas option. We do blankets. And so like we're doing all of this in-house, which is really important to note. What's cool is that, it started with this very simple product right here, which was just the pet. We ended up taking that and iterating it into people, right? So like we made a card for Valentine's Day, and then we made a Poke Dad card, which actually was like such a huge success for Father's Day, right? So taking something that works and then just iterating it over many different categories is something that we do really, really well. So once you like kind of dive into the product, you can see why it's so popular. People love it. People love that it's on a metal wallet size card that they get to carry with them. Anyone that loves their pet usually is intrigued by this, even if they're not into the idea. And so again, like you'll see a lot of like happy customers. We get to scale this infinitely, right? Like when it comes to paid ads, we're in control of that. We do have listings on Etsy and stuff, but like I said in that first episode, we'll do that listing for a lot less because the type of buyer on those platforms are just different. So yeah, this is the third brand, PokePet Shop, and I think this is doing around like 3.5 million a year in revenue. So really, really cool brand.
Dude, that's sick, man. And I love that it's like positive products. It's not just like some like political t-shirt, I hate the president, you know what I mean? Stoking it. It's like a nice, like positive, like I'm sure the people on the receiving end feel great. The people gifting it feel great. So I love that.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite stories with those two brands, Animoji and PokePet, was we received a message from one of the artists that work with us. And he shared the story of how he managed to buy his family a home on like the salary of creating this artwork. And so it wasn't really a salary, like we pay per piece of art. And we make sure that we're like paying the highest rates out of anyone in our niche. And the reason why we do that is because they prioritize our art. The artist will push out larger quantities for us. And we never have issues when it comes to large volume periods. And so again, just treating people well, right? Making products with positive impact. I mean, the reactions that people give us once they receive their gift, like it's incredible, man. It like genuinely puts a smile on our face. And then, on the flip side, we're actually profitable, right? We also get to take home a certain amount of money, and that's a great, side effect. So, I mean, they go definitely hand in hand. We usually only create products that actually excite us. So again, you'll see that same theme being replicated here. Lovebright.com is another website. We started selling these once they got popular recently. There was a lot of videos that started going viral on TikTok for these light box artworks. So we actually sourced it from China. We got the box, we opened it up, we figured out how it worked, and now we make these in-house. And so you can see a product that we launched that nobody else is offering yet. And it's a custom line art painting. So people will upload an image of their anniversary, of their family. We'll do a line art drawing on the front. We'll print it in full color on the back. And then when the light turns on, you can actually see what the end product would look like. Again, this is the beauty of doing in-house manufacturing, in-house fulfillment. Literally, it took us 7 days to figure this out, and now we're making this in-house. And I mean, I think that's why we're, at the level we're able to be. It's that level of customization.
Yeah, dude, these products are amazing, and it's incredible that you're willing to like share them. But it's because you do have that competitive edge. One thing that gets overlooked, I think, in any business venture, or really anything people spend their time doing in life. Like if I'm doing anything in life, starting something new, I want to have some edge. Like I want to feel like there's a justification for me doing it. If it's like, business or something, if it's something I'm doing for fun, okay, cool. But if it's like business and I'm like, oh, I want to try print on demand, and if I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm competing with a bunch of experts, it's going to be really hard to succeed. So I, study from people that have been there before, maybe copy their methods, whatever, find a way that I feel like it's justifiable. And I love that, you're doing your own thing here with these products and just killing it, man.
Yeah, man. I think like my big takeaway, and I learned this early on, right? Like we had a designer that used to work for Canvas Freaks, and one day he just up and left. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever, like people leave jobs all the time. Next thing I know, like a few weeks later, I find a website that has our same products, all of our same designs, very similar theme, and I'm like, this is weird. I dig into the Facebook and I find that like that's his. He took all of our source files, launched a website, and I was like, okay, there's two things I can do right now. I could go after him, I could sue him, or I can we do manufacturing, I can work with him. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that approach. I approached him and I said, listen, I'm not mad. I genuinely, I don't care. You can give us a percentage of sales for future sales, and let us manufacture this product for you, and you can pay us for fulfillment. So he did that, and fast forward 4 years later, I think we generated over $500,000 in revenue from his store, and he got to be successful. And it's like we apply that same framework across everything. I mean, like even if people are still selling new websites, we'll work with them. I don't care. The world is bigger than we all think it is. There's more opportunities and more customers than we could even imagine. And so like we always take that approach to everything. And it's like, even if I came up with this idea, it doesn't matter. I want other people to share it. They'll run ads. There's going to be more awareness. A lot of those people will come back and end up buying from me. And that's totally okay. And that's just kind of how we think about business and how we think about things. And I feel like that's, genuinely led us to more success than it would have been if we were closed off, right?
Yeah,
so,
great perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
Totally, man. I'll share our fifth brand, which is Driver Dynasty. So this one, we started with a very particular product, and it was these custom acrylic cards for drivers. And so they can upload a picture of their car, and we would add like custom stats based on performance and handling and things like that. They could even upload a picture of themselves if they wanted to. And as you can see, it's a similar products, right? It's a metal card, it's the acrylic print. And so we did that for a while, and we couldn't get it profitable. So we actually stopped doing that. This is a really cool product. We would take their cars and turn it into a transformer. Totally hand drawn, right? Like so unique. And this one surprisingly didn't work either. It didn't work well. But what did work was our third product drop, which was a simple hoodie line art embroidery product that we would take people's, like they would upload their picture, create a line art hoodie, and we'd sell this. And so again, like iteration, and finally this hit. And so I think last Q4, we probably did around $500,000 in revenue on this product. Really, really unique. And honestly, it broke all of our systems, man, if I'm going to be honest with you. We've never done hoodies before. So when we started manufacturing this, quite literally everything broke. It was so much harder than I ever imagined it would be. And so we ended up spending probably 80 hours a week, like me and my co-founders, like working on this, really figuring out the process. You would think it's simple because it looks so simple, but yeah, it's not. So we actually purposely stopped running ads to this. And now we're just doing like, again, the same light box. We'll take what works on another brand, and now we're applying it into, different brands. So again, you can see we'll do a line art of your car, and now it's a light box print. So like, yeah, I mean, we're making all this stuff in-house. So it's like, if we're doing it for one brand, why don't we do it for other brands, right? And so yeah, just kind of sharing. I don't know if you have any questions about this.
That's awesome, man. And just to zoom out for a sec, like when you say, oh, we couldn't make it work, like, but you're showing us the product. So just to confirm, like you're still making these available on your site so that if you get like organic traffic, that can convert. And if you have one product that is able to be like advertised at a profit, you can still offer the other ones as upsells on the way out, right? And then make that work. So you still keep those products on the site.
Literally hit it on the nose. That is exactly the thought process. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen so often, but it's often enough that it'll pay for the utilities, right? Or just be like that additional bit of profit. So it really didn't make sense to like hide these products or remove them off the page. It's like there's still a demand for it. It's just not enough demand that we can create with paid ads. So why not just leave it to be an organic sale? And so yeah, absolutely, that was our thought process, and that's why we left those.
Awesome, man.
Going into our newest brand, I guess, it's Card Beasts. And so this was something where like, there's such a large group of people that sell, or that have like children, right, that are in like sports leagues and things like that. So we wanted to create these like metal card custom prints that they could kind of like, gift to like the whole team if they wanted to, or just their kid. So that's where we came up with this idea. Again, we have the products already. We have the metal print cards. It just makes sense to iterate on this. So now we're doing it for like basketball and like, golf or soccer or anything else. And we're hoping this is going to be a huge success because, again, there's like tens of millions of kids that this could relate to. And so, yeah, we haven't proved concept on this yet, but this is what the website looks like. So if anyone wants to copy it and prove concept for us, let us know and we'll be your manufacturer. That's okay too.
The scope of this too, like, I mean, you know what I mean? What like kids is really who, you're selling to any parent with a kid that plays a sport. I feel like that's, in terms of just potential, like raw potential, that's huge. Like this is going to be crazy.
Yeah. And more importantly, like I stand by this, right? Every product we launch, it has to have a certain unit economic, right? Like the margins have to make sense because we're on Shopify, we're doing paid ads. We have to have a certain percentage go towards the ads. And so like, the metal card's probably my favorite product. And the reason why is because we can sell this for about $50 if we want. And I think, for us to manufacture this in-house, to ship it and everything, it's like, it's going out for like maybe $7. Like that is an incredible margin on this piece. And then additionally, you can even charge for the digital print, which a lot of people, I've been seeing that trend on Etsy. A lot of people do that now. So you can make money on kind of both parts of it. And that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this too. So definitely like, always pay attention to those unit economics because we'll never launch a product unless it always has at least like 70% plus, which allows us to scale it successfully.
And, you're sharing so much value. It's incredible. But just to like zoom out again, because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody watching this that isn't like, that considers themselves a beginner or even intermediate. Like you said in part one, you dropped out of college, right? So you didn't just get like an MBA from Harvard and you're like, yeah, we're just going to go sell these products and I'm going to crunch the numbers and it's going to be easy, right? Like you're like a normal person that learned this on the way.
Totally. And funny story, I guess, to tie that up, because I didn't realize I didn't go back to it. So like while we were building from 2017, I actually did end up going back to school. And so for me, it was like two reasons. It was like, one, I just wanted to prove that I could do it. But secondly, also like I felt like there was something I could learn there. I never worked corporate before we launched all this. So I always felt like there was some level of value that was there in terms of like organizing teams, in terms of leadership and stuff that like I could still learn. And so I went back, I ended up finishing my undergrad. I did my MBA afterwards and I finished that just like a year and a half ago. And to be honest, like I don't regret it at all, man. I thought it was awesome. Like going from building first, having all the knowledge of business, and then going back to doing my MBA, like I was able to connect all these dots and like come out with like a higher level of thinking. And that higher level of thinking is what allowed us to build a framework around so much of what we do. I don't believe it's necessary for everyone, but I do think it was necessary for me to level up as an entrepreneur. And so, yeah, I think, this level of success, or even 10 times it, could be found by, not even like finishing high school, honestly, right? It just comes down to execution. But for me, again, I did feel like it was necessary.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, man. And for sure, like I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate. I know that like I used to sit in those classes and not like I couldn't like really comprehend some of the stuff that the teachers would say because without the real world experience to tie it to, it really sometimes was just were just words. But then when I went back and ended up teaching like at the college level, even though it was teaching web development, like I would still like I would teach the curriculum, but then I would say I'm going to come back to this in 5 minutes and give you a real world example of why you would do it.
That's awesome.
And people, I think
those were literally my favorite professors. Like every single time, it was like it would come down to like, okay, are they just speaking from a book or are they like actually tying it back in? And so like coming from that world of business, learning the experience, like it was mad impactful for me. And I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of my classmates didn't get to have that because they just came straight from undergrad directly into their MBA, and they had nothing to connect it to. And I always see that vast difference, but it's awesome that you were a teacher, Ryan, because like I feel like for me, that's like my end goal, man, like is to pull up in like a 911 GT3 to class to teach, and that's like where I envision my life in my 40s. So I think that'd be really cool.
Dude, I was a 25-year-old teacher at my alma mater in like a
Crazy,
Z4,
man.
like a BMW Z4. So I was kind of like living that out, dude.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I bet you were the cool professor for sure.
I don't know, probably, but I don't know. All right, you want to screen share and show the rest of the.
Totally. So those are our 6 brands, right? I definitely wanted to share the level of customization that we do within our company, and just to show that like that's really what it takes to stand out from the crowd. I think all the POD apps are incredible, and obviously it really comes down to what your design is, in order to make it successful. But we don't just focus on like awesome designs; we also focus on awesome products. And so, when you combine the two, I feel like it really helps level you up. I had a friend actually that had this company. It was Family Gifts Co. Hopefully it comes up. And so I just wanted to kind of share this design while speaking on it, because again, this is just canvas prints. This is something that everyone's offered since day one. It's nothing unique, nothing special, but he did come up with this design. And when he came up with this design, which allowed people to customize and put their family names, he actually did $20 million the first year he launched, which was insane to me. And it broke all of his systems. He had thousands of upset customers, but like, obviously he fixed all that. He made things right with the customers. And it just comes down to like, what happens when you have the right design with the right product and you combine those two with strong creatives and paid ads, man, you can really take this thing to the moon. So like my advice, I guess, to maybe some of the viewers that have print on demand stores is if you have a product that's doing really well on Etsy, on Amazon, etc., and you think it has that potential to scale, I mean, partner up with somebody that has experience in the paid ads world. You don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to launch a new website and do all of that yourself. You could just partner with someone that has that experience and then just use that as like side income, and still just replicate the process that you've done on Etsy or Amazon. So definitely just wanted to kind of share that.
I agree with that too. I love that. Like I always kind of like on my micro scale, I preach like, hey, if you can sell this on Amazon, you can sell it on Etsy too. So make sure you're on both
100%.
platforms,
I agree with that. And as long as you're doing all the work necessary, right? Like if you're literally just listing and forgetting, I mean, there's still going to be a level of income that comes in, but obviously I do believe, like personally, that, your level of success on it will be capped. So I think that like, if you're doing that, that's amazing and you should do it, but dive deep into the weeds of it. Right.
Right.
And it really just depends on what your goals are, what your business goals are. If you're trying to make an extra couple $1,000s a month, then you don't need to do that really. But if you want it to replace your income, become a full-time thing, then I think it's necessary.
Right. So you're talking about taking like a listing that generates you like maybe $500 a month and taking the same listing, making it a $5,000 a month listing because you studied Etsy, you learned the ins and outs, and you checked every single box to position it as well as you possibly could. Is that kind of what
exactly.
you meant?
That is, and I think everybody should have like a checklist, right? And what I mean by that is like, okay, did I test the product image itself, that main image that people are using to find me? Am I testing enough, tags and key terms and things like that? And you should be continuously doing that to test against, again, those previous benchmarks of what has been the case. So again, going from 500 to 5,000. I do think that's the level of granularity that it takes. I don't think it's necessary for everyone to do it. It just comes down to what your business goals are. But again, if you want to scale that up, I think that's what you have to expect. That's the level of work you'll have to put in.
I love that, man. I love that. And again, you're talking about setting goals. You're talking about reverse engineering. If you want to make 10 mil, being realistic about getting to that number, not just making a random t-shirt in a random niche and being like, why didn't it make 10 million in sales? Like acting with intent,
And I mean, like we spoke about this a little bit, Ryan, like, when it comes to like courses and things like that, I think a lot of times, there'll be these amazing headlines that says, make your first million in print on demand revenue. Personally, I think it's possible, right? It genuinely is possible for everyone to study that course, to learn it, to implement those learnings and get there. The outcome that you're going to have, it literally comes down to your output, right? Like how much time are you going to put into it? So set those expectations realistically based on the outcome that you want. if you want that $10 million outcome, I mean, yeah, you need $10 million worth of effort, right? And 100%, man. Like, I think we both experienced that while growing our companies, right? Like, that is the reality.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I just wanted to kind of showcase how, I guess, even like going back to that MBA conversation, how it changed my framework, right? Initially, we were just brands. We had canvasfreaks.com. We had Animify Me maybe at this stage. And I thought to myself, like, there's something bigger here, right? If I continue growing these brands individually, that's cool, but they're all going to like one bank account. There's like mixed financials, mixed teams, and all this stuff happening. What if I thought about it in a higher level? And so this is the structure that we came up with for our company. We created a holdings company called A3 Ventures. And then we just put all of our brands into buckets within our brand portfolio. We created an agency, which was literally our internal marketing team, which had all this experience on print on demand, personalized gifting. And we said, hey, why don't we turn this into a front-facing agency to help others achieve the same numbers that we have? And so we created Agency X. And then we took our manufacturing and we separated that into its own manufacturing company. And by doing that, what it allows us to have different bank accounts, clean financials. If at any point I want to sell just canvasfreaks.com for a few $1 million, I can do that. If I want to sell just animifyme.com, I can do that. If I want to buy additional brands and add it to this portfolio, I can do that in a really clean and clear-cut way. And it allows us to increase the value of the holdings company, which, you know, our end goal is to sell it to maybe private equity, right? Or at any point I want to raise capital for it, I can do that. So yeah, school allowed me to kind of come up with this kind of a framework into thinking about my business, my company, and, you know, reverse engineering and creating this structure. So I'm pretty grateful for that. And I think this is how we plan to scale as a company, is by individually growing all the brands, obviously, but additionally, I want to buy other print on demand companies. I want to buy really awesome, you know, products and things like that and add them to our portfolio to scale that up as an enterprise. So that's kind of what we're up to, and hopefully that, you know, helps provide some context.
Yeah, dude, no, for sure. Like, this is, it's almost like future you is telling present day you, hey, do this, because you've got some, obviously, like probably a massive payday waiting for you at some point in the future, if or when you guys decide to exit. And like the fact that you'd already have structured this way is going to make that infinitely cleaner and easier. So that is super smart. And like, while probably nobody watching this, myself included, is ever going to get this far, but like, I love that you shared it.
No, I mean, I actually think it's like important to implement a lot of these, like, even if you're not there, right? So going back into like, make your company sellable. So like, you might be doing an Etsy store or an Amazon FBA company, or even a Shopify. And so like, you want to make sure, like, depending on how large you are, obviously you want to have some level of scale, but you want to clean up the financials. You want to make sure you have systems and, you know, processes in place for everything, so that like you can replace yourself one day as a founder, sell the company or whatever. I think there's two ways to really make money in business, right? And one is the cash flow and the profit that your business brings in, right? Aside from any salary you're paid. And then the second part that a lot of people leave out is that you can sell your company, right? And there's certain steps that you have to take in order to sell your company. And there's a certain level of learning that is required. So even though it might not apply to 99%, I think anyone doing a side hustle should at least be thinking about these things, because, you know, you might not be ready now, but you might be ready in 2 years. And so if you apply the right frameworks, then you can build it in a way that allows you to sell that company. And that's just kind of, you know, how I've thought about it. And I wish someone told me that 3 years ago.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing these insights. And just out of curiosity too, I love the framework concept that you can apply to different, like, you know, copy paste, but like anywhere they can go outside of going back to college, getting an MBA, like anywhere they can go to maybe learn, get some insights, tips, etc.
Yeah, there are so many courses, surprisingly, online on, you know, like M&A, mergers and acquisitions, making your company ready for exit. Obviously, YouTube University is the first and foremost. I'll definitely send over some links. I can't remember any off the top of my head that I would send over. but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of educational resources to use. I'll definitely send those over because I want to make sure it's like vetted, strong resources, rather than just kind of spitballing something off the top of mind.
No, I really appreciate that. And yeah, any links you send, I'll put in the description. So I do really appreciate that. Of course, YouTube, man, it has everything.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all this like incredible insights. You packaged years of experience and literally tens of millions of dollars of revenue into like bite-sized chunks that we can all learn from. And I'm sure everybody's grateful. Guys, let him know in the comments, please. Let him know that you appreciate him being here. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we head out? And also follow him on Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think the only like main thing I would say is, all right, so like e-commerce is obviously very difficult, right? No matter what platform you're on. It's just about being intentional about it. I know I said this multiple times already. I think there's so many business models that can work for everybody to make money online. It's about sticking to one and just putting like really your all into it. And you know, it's funny because like I'm on this and I know there's so many ways to make money, whether it's social media marketing, whether it's drop shipping, whether it's print on demand. The one that I actually recommend to everybody is print on demand. So if you're not doing print on demand, you should, right? And if there's anyone to learn from, it's Ryan, right? You absolutely need to start, I think, on Etsy because I think that's like the lowest hanging fruit. You don't need to spend a lot of money, but you should start small. Don't try to make the biggest company in the world from day one. Just start small, right? Start with like simple listings and learnings, and you'll step up from there. Getting to even my stage, which, you know, I think is minuscule compared to others, it's all about just that daily grind. I've been doing it for 7 years, right? And so, of course, like I managed to get here, but it's 7 years of daily inputs. So hopefully, you know, there'll be a lot of people that are watching this where 7 years from now, they've like far more than surpassed me. And I think that's very possible.
No, I love that perspective. And I know it's like very relatable. Like I get that. That's why people like say that my content resonates because I would post like income reports when I was making, you know, $100 a month, right?
I love that.
Like, hey, I just kept going and going and going and, you know, developing processes that, you know,
right.
You could iterate through and make them more optimal. And I just never gave up, you know, and then you automate as much as possible and just keep pushing further. And, you know, and then you look back and you're like, damn, yeah.
That was me for years, man. Like same process, right? Like literally, I don't think we made our first $1,000 online for the first like 8 months, man. Like it was not easy. I was blessed enough to like be in my parents' home, you know, have that freedom at that time, like 7 years ago. But yeah, absolutely, man. It's just daily inputs. There's no easy way around it. So yeah.
Yep. Setting an intent and following through, chipping away every day, you know, that'll get you places in life. So hey,
totally,
this has been great, Ahmed. Thank you so much, man. Friend of the channel officially now. We've done 2 interviews. When you crack $100 million and maybe even before then, I definitely want to have you back and just like celebrate and I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of like great questions too in the comments. So I'm not going to commit you to a part 3, but hopefully at some point, maybe towards the end of the year, we can bring you back.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to. Just reach out. Let me know. Awesome.
All right, well,
anybody that has questions, definitely just DM me. You know, I'm an open book. I'd love to talk to you guys. Quit.
Yeah, and hit him up on Threads too. The Instagram one. That's how we met. So Threads too.
Totally.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. Hey, everybody, again, hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, drop us a comment, even if it's just a thank you. And we'll see you guys at the next one.